Warning, this review will contain massive spoilers.
Now the first thing that I wanted to talk about was the story. And now, come on, let's face it, as far as Metal Gear Solid goes, the story is the most epic part of the franchise. In fact, the fans love it to death, and let's just be honest, Hideo Kojima is the man with the plan, so let's get the story out of the way.
So yeah, after Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes, it's revealed that Snake, or Big Boss, has been in a coma for 9 years and being kept at a secret hospital by Major Zero until one day he would awake and once again create a facility to inhabit soldiers. Well, at this point in time, Major Zero and Snake have issues with one another. Believing the world should progress in different ways, there's a mutual respect and longing that keeps Zero from having Snake killed. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, and literally behind the scenes, going all the way back to Operation Snake Eater, a second party also led by Major Zero was doing work under the radar, led by a man we all know as Skullface, who was revealed in Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes.
This pirate crackdown's a go! Move!
Skullface was responsible for keeping certain events in motion and, like many other supernatural characters in this universe, contained some of his own mystic mumbo-jumbo to keep the hatred of a being so strong that it would keep them alive even in the face of death. And because of his own hidden agenda, Skullface despises Zero and wants him dead in his own way, wants the world to follow his own specific ideals based on what he and Zero believed the original boss wanted. However, their rationalization for her words led to different outcomes. Zero would indirectly go on to cause the Patriots AI, while Skullface would meet his fate here.
Finish me. Kill me.
Unlike all of the other Metal Gear Solid games, where they are known for their cinema-style cutscenes spanning hours length, Phantom Pain takes a very different approach, if not out of convenience for the player to have more playtime than twiddling fingers, but maybe for reasons I'll detail momentarily. You see, most of the time in Phantom Pain, the story's key points of information are given by cassette tapes you can choose to listen to at your leisure. The in-game cutscenes are indeed still there, but not nearly as lengthy as before, and maybe even sometimes a rarity.
See, now, while Metal Gear Solid 4 is a beautiful game on its own and deserves all the praise that it gets, a very common theme and joke you hear from the general audience is, well, it was the greatest movie I ever played. Because, yeah, we can definitely agree that Hideo Kojima, while the man, he's really ambitious with his cinematography when he lets loose on cutscenes in these games, because when a cutscene plays, it feels like you're sitting there for an hour before you can pick up the controller and start playing again. Now, I can only imagine he might have gotten wind of the joke and really decided to take a step down on the storytelling and really provide in the gameplay department, because up until now, while the story has been beautiful and the gameplay superb, it feels like the gameplay itself was always a secondary feature to the game.
Too true. Okay, Snake, let's get to work.
Even when exposition is fed to you through the codec, you still maintain complete control over Snake and can go about completing your tasks as the characters are engaging in conversation. I really welcome this feature with open arms, because while I enjoy the story through its plot, and admittedly it's half the fun, the gameplay is what we should also be looking forward to. A balance is needed, if you will, and for the most part, Metal Gear Solid 5 delivers. However, it's not entirely flawless in that design either. And what I mean by this, it isn't necessarily on how the story is delivered, but I do believe that the story itself is lackluster. Now, at first you may think this is because of how we're spoiled with previous games, and, well, that may not be unreasonable to think, but let's just say that there are loose ends that we had hoped that would have been answered, but unfortunately went unmentioned. Making matters even more interesting is the twist of an ending you get when the campaign is finished. The shock value is definitely surprising and thought-provoking. At the start of the game, you're presented with an avatar creation screen where you create your self-representation of a character.
Yeah, I know it's a bit weird for Metal Gear Solid to have a feature like this, but considering that we know it has an online feature, it's expected to be believed that your avatar would be usable there. And while that is actually true, it so happens that as part of the story, you learn that you are not, in fact, the real Big Boss, but you are actually a fake Big Boss. No, in better words, you are you. You are yourself. You are you disguised as Big Boss through plastic surgery as part of the story in order to be like some big defense mechanism in order to protect the real Big Boss.
While the game does occasionally give you subtle hints at this, it's still indeed a very shocking reveal when it was seen, and since has had people thinking multiple things. Not many really understood the idea of the main character of the game being you, the player, but instead took it at face value, believing you were simply the unlucky medic who was unfortunate enough to be in the same helicopter as Snake during Ground Zeroes. Others, however, have been able to understand the point it was driving, while still leaving a bitter taste in their mouths. Well, because of just how weird the whole ordeal was.
And while myself, I get it, I too understand the problem. I'm really not satisfied at all with it, just the same as most of you guys might be, because it just feels like out of all of this, there's a severe lack of closure. And like there's a huge chunk of the story missing from this entire thing.
Characters go missing, questions are unanswered. I hate to say it, but in some ways it feels very rushed, and sadly, all is not complete, as it's revealed through a special bonus disc in the collector's edition of Phantom Pain, that, well, the game was indeed, as some of us feared, unfinished. What we get in the game for a final level is plain and simply a retread of the exact same tutorial level from the beginning of the game, with literally no difference. In fact, there's a good chance you might not even understand that this is the ending of the game because there is no difference between this one and the previous one. You might simply look at it and think that, oh, this must be another repeat of the previous levels in order for me to get more achievements, not understanding that this is where the ending of the game is. And that is just wrong. The tutorial itself even stays intact as if we forgot how to play, only for the ending cutscene to play out differently, showing us the other side of what happened after we passed out in the ambulance. And then the credits roll. However, the bonus disc revealed the true final level thoroughly with incomplete cutscenes and concept art.
I'll kill all of Cypher. I'll destroy your precious world.
Now, when we say the game is unfinished, we at least mean it not in a way that deems the game full of bugs and glitches to the point of being unplayable, although there were a couple of glitches. One in particular that could corrupt your game save file using Quiet as a Buddy, but fortunately, that's been patched. But my friend Andy from Son of a Glitch managed to find a few comedic glitches.
Another buddy you'll eventually be able to take with you on missions is Quiet. Just make sure you don't take her with you on missions 29 or 42, as players found that it can trigger a glitch that can potentially destroy your save file. Konami did issue a workaround saying you could still safely use Quiet during these missions if you use the butterfly emblem through the missions or avoid raising your bond level with Quiet to the max during the course of the mission. Since then, Konami have created update version 1.3 which fixes the glitch.
Go check out his video after this one's over. Getting back to what I said, if the final chapter to the game was so far in the process and cut because of Konami,
it begs the question, what else possibly was removed from Metal Gear Solid 5? I mean, I haven't even gotten to the gameplay yet, and already this game is shrouded in mystery as to what happened behind the scenes. We know that Hideo Kojima and Konami, because of what was happening back there, had to go their separate ways, with Kojima being fired or let go or he quit. We don't know. All we do know is that, like many others, this led to a cancellation of an upcoming game that we were all looking forward to.
Moving on to the gameplay, I can honestly say that the priority was definitely spent here, as the gameplay without a doubt is truly amazing. It follows a similar concept of Peace Walker, but far more advanced. But I will try to explain as best as I can. Most of the time, Snake will be sitting in the helicopter awaiting the player to take command of the iDroid. This thing manages everything in the game. Your mission progression, mother base, the works. Once you've made some significant progress through the game itself, more utilities will become accessible the same way through the iDroid. You can choose to explore Mother Base from the iDroid, and you may want to visit it frequently for a few reasons. While there's not a hefty amount of things to accomplish here, there are a few worth mentioning. On every section of Mother Base you expand, you can engage in target practice around shooting at some of the objects while the timer goes down. I find these to be pretty fun and a good time killer because it's not so simple as just shooting what you see, because a lot of the targets can be particularly well hidden, with the constructs of Mother Base making them difficult to locate and shoot. However, you may want to keep trying, because while it is good as a time killer, especially when you're developing an item or a weapon, you can actually earn a handful of in-game currency called GMP. so if you see the option, I would encourage it. And if you manage to find all of the targets, good news, they will actually be in the same place every time, so it's pretty easy money. Hey, and on the side, running up and physically assaulting your own soldiers is also an okay thing to do because it somehow boosts their morale for you, and it's kind of entertaining. Yeah, there's a little masochist in us all. But more importantly, there is also a shower you will also want to use on Mother Base because it cleans off the blood from Snake's outfit from previous missions, and it also refreshes your mentality so you can have precise aiming with weapons, and probably more reflex time.
Other than that, there really aren't many other reasons why you would want to hang out at Mother Base. I mean, you might find the occasional diamonds scattered around somewhere for extra currency, but otherwise, you're really not going to spend a lot of time hanging around.
Meanwhile, as you know, Metal Gear Solid 5 has a story to be sure, but unlike previous games, now most of it is fed to you via the cassette tapes as I said before. You can choose to listen to these here. After completing story-based missions, new tapes will be added talking about the aftermath of a mission, or what's been happening while you're away either at Mother Base or other areas. Each tape is really well detailed and interesting to listen to, albeit a few skippable ones, but there's even some comic relief thrown in to be sure, so give them a listen to if you're missing out, especially on some of the lore. The FOB missions are interesting. If you're connected online, PlayStation Plus or no, you can infiltrate and be infiltrated by other players across the net who will teleport to your Mother Base and try to hijack your belongings like NPCs you've captured, cargo you've acquired, and many other things like turret guns. But fear not, you can actually retaliate by going to other bases and doing the exact same thing. Although bear in mind that they can catch you doing this, and in turn they can try to get revenge, so only do so when ready, as some of these players have bases that are decked out with the highest of equipment. That and being connected online early in the game might not help out much for you because you want to keep all your cargo and gear.
You see, now while you're off doing your own missions or side quests, you can actually deploy your own unit that you create by people you capture to go on their own missions and capture things as well, such as containers, fuel, like components that you need to find. They can get more currency, metals, they can do all of this stuff, and you got to send them out. And they can also level up, so you can send them to do even harder missions and reap more rewards out of it. You can also equip them with better gear, vehicles, but bear in mind, they can also lose. So if they lose, you lose them, and you might lose the stuff you sent with them, so
When you choose to go on missions, like main ones or side quests, you will immediately like to survey the area with your iDroid to pinpoint your destination, as the vast world around you can be very inviting and easy to get lost in, just like Grand Theft Auto games. The open world has so much to do that honestly you could be stuck playing this game for months and potentially still not be 100% completed.
But that is by no means a complaint. I love longevity in games. You want to know why? Because that means I got my money's worth. Instead, where a lot of the time we get high budget games for high prices these days that you can ultimately beat in a couple of hours and then you might never play them again.
When you deploy on a battlefield, and by the battlefield I literally mean the open world of Afghanistan or Africa, your two great big sandboxes, you can actually freely roam the areas and find things to do, like scoping out the terrain and potentially finding little areas that are surrounded by guards who might be protecting something valuable, like a prisoner or a blueprint. And what you decide to do there is completely up to you. Though Metal Gear Solid's gameplay has primarily always focused on being stealthy, and to a degree it does reap more rewards when you do so, there is virtually no penalty for choosing to play the game however you want. Do you want to be a badass and just go guns blazing all over the place like Rambo in order to accomplish your objective? You fully have that power to do so. Would you rather take the indirect approach and use your items to your advantage like sleep grenades and eliminate the problems? It's all good. Metal Gear Solid 5, in terms of its gameplay, has far too much to offer that you will likely forget about some of the features you can do, like calling on your helicopter for fire support and even for a resupply, via an item drop that takes about 30 seconds. And what's cool is that you can do this at any time. Adding to this fun is stealing all of your enemies' belongings with the Fulton upgrades. By progressing in the story and capturing enough new recruits, they can help you develop some new items, weapons, and technology for you to take on your missions, adding to a plethora of variety to the gameplay, making an already great experience all the more enjoyable and fun. Using Fultons to steal giant crates, vehicles, and even enemy tanks is so satisfying when you get away with it. I love it.
The development screen is where you're going to be spending a fair amount of time, because here you can develop new weapons, new items for your characters, for your buddies. See, now when you collect blueprints and find prisoners that might be able to help you, you can upgrade new weapons, and literally the sky is the limit. There are a ton of weapons here, a plethora of weaponry. Some weapons are better than others, but you know what? It's up for you, the player, to decide what is best to take on the mission. Some people are going to go in loud and explosive with explosives, rocket launchers, missiles, stingers, Nikitas, all of that good stuff, while others might want to play it a little more stealthy. You got your sniper rifles, you got your shields, you got your silent pistols, you got everything here. I can't think of a single weapon they did not put into this game. Then again, I'm not a weapons expert, so there might be something. Shoot, they even got a water gun!
There's even development sections for your buddies, which we haven't even touched yet. Let's do that. You have D-Dog, my personal favorite, the horse, which surprisingly has little use, but when used right, can be hilarious, a D-Walking battle tank complete with machine guns and flamethrowers, and D-Walker is also quick for fast travel. But of course, there's also the very controversial Quiet. Yeah, there is no beating around the bush here. Quiet really is undefendable. Useful as she may be for cover fire in battle for sniping at your enemies, it's no secret that this woman is purely for fan service to the extreme. And you know, this wouldn't be a problem, and for the most part, if you like titties, I sure do, it's not a problem. But when Kojima says things like, "We'll regret saying all those bad things" because of her weak explanation as to why she dresses and acts like a slut, then yeah, we have an issue. Don't piss on my head and tell me it's raining. Moving on. The best buddy is by far D-Dog. Using him will definitely aid your sneaking and stealth. With D-Dog nearby, he will automatically pinpoint where every single enemy is without you having seen them. He can also locate prisoners too. Even greater, he can also be used as a deterrent. And by giving the order, he can straight up sick an enemy, stunning, killing, or severely wounding them. But should you happen to get caught,
we have a brand new ability called Reflex Mode that you might remember from Ground Zeroes. See, now when you get caught, you have so much of a chance to save yourself from getting that alert phase. See, whenever you get caught now, if you have Reflex Mode on that is, you have about 5 to 10 seconds to shut the person up who saw you, either by decking them in the face or pulling out a silent firearm and capping him, or taking him down by some means before that Reflex Mode goes off, and then somehow the entire base knows where you are. I really like Reflex Mode. I mean, people may differ on opinions about it. Some may feel that it makes the game too easy, but you know, it really comes down to personal preference. Like, to me personally, I think it gives the player a little bit more of a comfortable time playing through the mission, so they don't have to worry about messing up just once and that was it. But Reflex Mode offers you a way out just in case you did mess up.
with all of that being said, it sounds like Metal Gear Solid 5 is the perfect game. Well, no. While it's definitely worthy of all of the praise it gets, and trust me, I couldn't give this game a higher recommendation as a game you must absolutely own for whatever console you have, there are a couple of nitpicks that I have with it, and most of it has to do with the company that owns the game, Konami. As already mentioned, there is proof that the game is unfinished, and in my opinion, the game, while great and beautifully done, in some areas feels a bit rushed, especially in the second act of the story. It feels like story elements that should have been covered and probably were going to be were purposely ignored, either because Konami forced the game out the door, which in turn forced the team to scrap the great ideas they had, leaving the story in its unfinished state, whereas the gameplay is where Metal Gear Solid 5 truly shines. And believe me, it shows. Especially with villains like Skullface, who surprisingly was very underwhelming, and in the end, despite his build-up, ended up being killed off rather quickly.
I did it! Revenge!
I think we created a monster. It felt like the game really had no conclusion and pulled a Sopranos ending, but even worse. Just so much feels left unsaid, and for the final installment of Metal Gear, that just doesn't sit well with me.
You know, in some ways, it really makes us wonder if Hideo Kojima even really wanted to make Metal Gear Solid 5, or if he was kind of just forced into doing it because Konami needed some more money.
In the end, what we still got was a truly amazing game and one of the best stealth video games ever made. Yet every time I play it, I cannot help but have in the back of my mind the thoughts of what truly happened behind the scenes at Konami's company. The deliberate absence of David Hayter, who played Solid Snake, not being present in interviews, the sudden firing of Hideo Kojima resulting in heavy game cancellations. There's just too much bad blood to ignore, you know? And in a way, even with all of those problems, it's truly remarkable that the game turned out as darn near perfect as it is despite all of this. So in the end,
we give Metal Gear Solid 5 a very high recommendation for about every gamer out there. There's months of enjoyment to be had in this game. You can't miss out on it. It's just too much of a fun experience. There's so much fun you can do, so many options, so many things you can do. It's literally a game for you. What more can you say about it? In the end, what we give the game is and what we give Konami is in the end, it's your call. So thank you guys so much for watching the review. I've been your host, William Morris from thebrotherhoodgaming.com, and until next time, keep on gaming, viewers, and we will see you next time.
even though this may be the end of the series, let's never forget the memories and share them with others. There will always be room for Metal Gear Solid.